Welcome to the Common Constitutionalist podcast. This is the Common Constitutionalist coming at you. And I had two or three things I wanted to discuss today. And then Paris got attacked by radical Islamists. And this is let me just say, this is a watershed moment in Europe. We're going to find out exactly what the French are made of. And don't laugh. This is deadly serious. We're going to find out what the Europeans, what the soft socialist Europeans are really all about. I'll get into this in depth. This is going to be the only thing I talk about today. So if you don't want to hear about the Paris attacks, about radical Islamists, and about the jihadist movement in Europe, then just go ahead and switch it off right now, because that's what I'm going to be discussing today on the Common Constitutionalist.
You're listening to the Common Constitutionalist, broadcast from an undisclosed location, free from the prying eyes of establishment black helicopters.
Alright, let's get right into this thing. So what do we know? Obviously, we know that Paris was attacked. I think 4 separate locations were attacked simultaneously. Now, what does that tell you right off the bat? That this was a well-coordinated effort. So, were these just lone wolf guys like our American administration wants to classify these people as lone wolves attacks, that they had no affiliation with anybody, because ISIS has taken credit for this. Now, maybe they were just waiting, and then after everybody was, all 8 jihadists were killed, they went ahead and after the dust settled, they took credit for this thing. Maybe that's why they waited, but I doubt it, because this thing was well coordinated. You got 8 guys, 4 targets, virtually simultaneous attacks, and many dead, many more wounded. You got AK-47s, you got bomb belts, not vests, but bomb belts. And you had virtually no chatter, no internet, no text, no tweets, no Facebook, no nothing. No chatter prior to the attacks, which means that they were going on that WhatsApp app or something like that, that's encrypted, and they can't seem to break into this thing. So jihadists are able to use this app to contact whoever they need to contact back and forth. And this is probably how they were carrying out these attacks, or at least coordinating them anyway. So therefore, the person, people, or whoever who planned these attacks, they're not stupid people. They're not just the barbarians that we think they are barbarians, no doubt. No doubt they're barbarians. They're pieces of human debris, and that's putting it mildly. But these guys evidently know the system, and they know their way around the system because of the coordination of these attacks. And also I'll just say the calmness by which they were carried out. There was no panic, there was no rushing around, there was no running about, there was no nothing. They just came in, they stood there, particularly in the nightclub, and they just started picking people off. It was like a shooting gallery. Unfrickin' believable. According to one of the experts at the International Center for Study of Radicalization at King's College in London, this guy Peter Newman, he said that the scale and the complexity of the Paris attack surprised everyone. Now, like I said, these guys need to these so-called experts need to wrap their heads around the fact that these guys are not the lone wolves that they're made out to be. These guys may actually be part of, I'll just say, Wilayat Paris, which is an ISIS province. These wilayas I wrote about, I don't even remember what, a week or so ago. And they've got these provinces. Wilayat just means province of ISIS. And it's an ISIS province where they have a group of guys. It could be a small group, or it could be like Wilayat Sinai, which could be a couple of thousand guys in Egypt that they're the ones that brought down that Russian airliner. And this may be part of a cell of Wilayat Paris. I don't know. No one knows at this point, but it's as good a guess as anybody's got out there. So these guys weren't dopes. They were trained to a certain extent, at least. So that means that they weren't just some dopes that bought some AKs off of the black market from some guy's trunk and just decided to get together and go shoot out a nightclub, bomb a stadium, and so on and so forth, a restaurant. That's not the way it happened. These guys got some training somewhere, whether they went to the Middle East, whether they went to Raqqa or Syria or Iraq or somewhere. They got training, and then they just filtered on back because the civ borders in Europe are as bad. They're as bad or even worse than the United States, and that's saying something. Now, they've thus far found also 2 passports, one Syrian, one Egyptian passport from 2 of these shooters or bombers or whatever you want to classify them as. Radical Islamists, that's what they are. And authorities suspect that the passports are fake passports. So they're fake passports. So what? One news agency claimed that one of the shooters at the nightclub was a French national. What does that even mean, a French national? Clock Boy was an American. So was Faisal Mohammed, the guy that stabbed those kids at the college in Oregon. He was an American too, as far as I know. What does that have to do with it? I guarantee you, a French national. What is that? I think it was Reuters who wrote that the kid was, one of the guys was known to be or thought to be a French national. What does that mean? I guarantee it doesn't mean that this guy's name was Jacques Bloch Chalac or something like that. I guarantee you his name was like every one of these guys' names. It was Mohammed al-Faisal al-Mohammed or something like that. And I guarantee you that's what they'll find out, that every one of these guys, whether they were French nationals or not, they were of Middle Eastern descent, Syrian, Egyptian, who knows what. Authorities also found tweets from ISIS. It wasn't very difficult to find them, that basically said that the attacks on Paris were retaliation for the bombings in Syria, the American-led coalition, and attacks will continue unless France and whoever else busts up the coalition, or at least just walks away from the U.S.-led coalition bombing ISIS. Another couple of tweets were, let's see, "Oh, Crusaders, we are coming to you with bombs and rifles," read one of the tweets. Another one was, "After the French crimes in Mali and the bombing of Syria and Iraq, now comes the killing. In your homes there will be war." Well, that's rather ominous, and they should take these guys as seriously as this was written.
You're listening to the Common Constitution. Let the truth be known.
Now, speaking of coordination, evidently German police picked up a man. They arrested a guy early this week, and they're claiming that they don't explain what the link is, but they claim there are clear links between the man arrested and last night's attack. And the man arrested was in Germany, and last night's attack was in France. So what else does that tell you? Again, here we go. Coordination. Here we go. These are, I'm telling you, these are cells, Wilayats, however you want to describe them, but they've got them in probably every European nation at this point, and they're all able to communicate with one another. As you recall, I'm trying to remember whether I wrote about it or spoke about it, But in any event, sometime last week or the week before, I talked about and explained what the Wilayats were and how there are small groups of Islamic radicals that get together. It could be as few as 5 people, and one of them is selected, maybe through the group or probably through leadership, ISIS leadership, to communicate with other cells and with the leadership in Raqqa or wherever, regional leadership, I don't know. But that's what's going on, is that these cells must be communicating back and forth to one another in between countries and coordinating these attacks. And that is a scary, scary proposition. Now, remember this, because it wasn't very long ago when Obama was on Good Morning America with George Snuffleupagus, asserting that ISIS was not gaining strength and that, quote unquote, we have contained them. Really? Obama said, may I remind you, we've always understood that our goal has to be militarily containing ISIL, and they all insist on calling it ISIL still, for whatever reason, I don't know. Containing ISIL's capabilities, cutting off their supply lines, cutting off their financing. Now, how's that working out there, Mr. President? He goes on and says, may I remind you, if you've heard this already, I don't think they're gaining strength. Okay, really? Now, this was just, a couple of weeks ago? I don't know, something like that. I can't remember, but it was bloody recent. Obama says, from the start, our goal has been to first contain, and we have contained them. Oh, really? They have not gained ground in Iraq, and in Syria they'll come in, and then they'll leave. Yeah, well, that's probably what's happening. So they come in, they get training, and they go back to Europe and kill people, which is probably what's going to start happening in America, you dolt. And he goes on and adds that you don't see this systematic march by ISIL across the terrain. Okay, so we have contained and constrained them. Where have they where on earth? Well, I guess there you go. We have contained and constrained them on planet Earth. Basically, they're contained on Earth, that they can't get off the planet. Other than that, they're roaming free and doing whatever the F they want to do. The foolishness that comes out of our President of the United States it's stunning, is what it is. The head in the sand foolishness of him and Kerry and the likes is just stunning. So then we go to President Francois Hollande. Yeah, Francois Hollande. There you go. He promised a merciless response to the wave of attacks by gunmen and bombers that killed 127 people across Paris. And I guarantee it's more than that at this point, and it's going to be growing as more people die from their wounds. Hollande blames the attacks on ISIS, which of course we know ISIS has now taken credit for it, and he called this an act of war by militants, and said it was planned from the outside with inside complicity. Wow, okay, way to go, genius, as if we couldn't figure that out on our own. So exactly what is Francois Hollande going to do? What's his move going to be? What will he and his liberal government authorize now? Dare we say it? Racial profiling? Will they go and will they do it? Those racist Frenchmen? Will they actually go ahead and do it? Will they initiate a stop and frisk to Muslim men of certain ages, say between 18 and 34 years old, because that's who they always end up being? Will they go that far? Or will they just bomb Syria and Iraq and leave the homeland basically there'll be a front. There'll be the illusion that the country is being protected. There'll be troops everywhere and maybe even some quasi-martial law or maybe some curfew enacted or something like that. But these guys are liberals. They're socialist liberals in Europe. They're feel-good socialist liberals. And so I don't know what they're going to allow themselves to do. at this point. I don't know whether they're going to allow themselves to do racial profiling. I don't know what they think they're going to do. But this act of war bullcrap, and I wish the best for them. I pray for those who were killed and wounded, and I feel absolutely terrible about it. As a matter of fact, I think it was Geraldo Rivera was on Fox, and he was live, and his daughter was actually at the stadium during the bombing incidents, and she was freaked out, and you could see in his face. I mean, I think Geraldo is a jerkwad personally, but I'll tell you, he was a father, and you could see it in his face. He was white as a sheet. He couldn't believe what was happening, and all he said was, "Do you want to come home, honey?" He was panicked over it, and he knew there wasn't anything he could do from where he was in New York City or wherever the heck he was. He was in the United States, and I think he was on set in New York, and there wasn't anything he could do. And I'm sure I feel so bad for him because he looked so helpless, and there wasn't anything he could do other than to try and comfort her from 2,000 or 3,000 miles away or whatever it is.
You're listening to the Common Constitution Cast. Let the truth be known.
Now, naturally, all the world leaders had to reach out, and I understand that. Of course, you reach out and you offer your condolences and you offer your help if you are able to help. And our brilliant Secretary of State offered his words of wisdom when he said, during a visit to Vienna, Austria, where the hoity-toity, haughty John Kerry visited, he said, "We are witnessing a kind of medieval and modern fascism at the same time." Wow, that's brilliant, John. You know why we're witnessing this, John? It's your diplomatic incompetence tied with Obama and Hillary Clinton and all the rest of you boobs that allowed this situation to grow the way it is. Not to mention the idiots in Europe like Holland and Angela Merkel, who just opened the floodgates and allowed all these bags of dirt in there. And now you're stuck with them. You can't even identify them because you don't know who came in because you were racked with guilt at the time, and you just let all the refugees, quote unquote, in, not even knowing who most of these people were. There was no vetting process. It was impossible to know who you were letting into your country. And guess what? This is who you let into your freaking country, you morons. And so, as much as it pains me to say that you deserve what you get, you kinda do. It doesn't make it right, and I feel terrible about it. I feel terrible for the innocence that's been brought up, the violence has been brought upon them. But this is your own doing, you weenie liberals in Europe. And this is, unless we get smart, this is our fate here in America too. There was one, however, in France who was the voice of reason, a smart one. She is French National Front political party leader Marine Le Pen. The left describes her as far right. She's a wacko like us, I guess. And she said that France must annihilate Islamist radicals and regain control of its borders. It's the first smart thing anybody's said in Europe in probably decades. She said that Islamist fundamentalism must be annihilated. France must ban Islamist organization, close radical mosques, and expel foreigners who preach hatred in our country, as well as illegal migrants who have nothing to do here. And the only way that she has gotten away with saying that without being completely lambasted, although she's probably been lambasted by their liberal media like ours, is the fact that it was right after the attacks and people are so angry that they may actually follow her. This is how I think it's going to go down. It's going to be one of two of these scenarios, and neither of them are any good. I hate to say, in Europe. The first scenario is that radical Islamists continue to penetrate Europe and they increase their attacks. With European authorities, they're just going to react. They're not going to preempt, they're going to react. They're not going to prevent, they might prevent some, but most of the time it'll be a reactionary force. I don't think that the Islamic State will actually conquer Europe, so to speak, such as it is. But these attacks will become, ready for it, the new normal. Kind of the way it is in Israel. They live with attacks from the Palestinian Authority, from Hamas, from Hezbollah, from whoever. That's what they live with on a weekly, daily, hourly basis over in Israel. And this may become, in fact, the new normal. And you just live with it in Europe. That's one scenario. That's bad enough. The other scenario is a rise of what I would classify as neo-nationalism throughout Europe. It may not be full-blown Nazism, but it's probably something really close, where the backlash to attacks, the old pendulum swinging one way or the other, and it never swings back to the reasonable center. It always swings way to the left and then way to the right and so on and so forth. And that, I don't mean political left, I mean back to the political right, although sometimes that does apply. But this is just, it swings way too far, lenient, and then way too far like martial law type of deal. So, for the longest time, they had this liberal open border policy. Well, kind of like we have right now. But for the longest time, that's what they had. And then the problem is that now this neo-nationalism may rear its ugly head, and then it's going to swing all the way back, passing freedom on its way. It'll wave to freedom in the middle on its way to voluntary totalitarianism, for want of a better term, where people will voluntarily give up the freedoms that they have for the promise of security. Does that ring any bells? Benjamin Franklin, maybe? Now, the people, they're going to want security. They're going to demand security, so the totalitarian state or somebody is going to rise to power very quickly and say, I can fix this. Ring any bells? Conjure up any ideas from European history, does it? And the totalitarian state, well, they're not going to let the people defend themselves. No, that's going to be left to the professionals. Kind of like the way the Obama administration thinks of the people. Oh, you can't defend yourself. We got to take all your guns away. Don't worry, we'll take care of you. Okay? It's going to be the same type of thing, times 10 in Europe. And so security will be, the sheep will fall in line demanding security. They'll get security in spades. The totalitarian government, the neo-nationalist government will take over, and then the state will protect you, and then all of a sudden, now everyone is going to come under suspicion by the state, not just radical Islamists. It'll be anybody who thinks twice, says something bad about the government or whatever, and that's the way it's going to happen, because that's the way it always happens. And that's the way it'll work. It's going to be one or two of those scenarios unless something breaks that's miraculous in Europe. And this is how totalitarian regimes always ascend to power. Look it up, folks. It's just history repeating itself. The people want what the people want. They make the demand, and then they all of a sudden suffer the consequences of what they've demanded. Hopefully it doesn't come to that. I hope that the Europeans get smart and just do what they need to do and target the people that they need to target, and that's it. But I don't know. I don't hold out much hope for Europe, I gotta tell you. One or the other of those scenarios, in my opinion, that's what's gonna happen to Europe. And stay clear. If you're planning on going over there, don't. If you're already over there, get the heck out while you still can. This is the... gee whiz, what a depressing topic. This is the Common Constitutionalist signing off, and I'll speak to you again next week. God willing, and the creek don't rise.